to introduce a friend and a colleague, Associate Professor Abdelaziz Zori, whom I also met 2 years ago at another conference in Croatia. It was actually a conference on management, and we were like pretty much the only ones talking about business English and business communication among all the specialists in economics and management. Just to tell you a few words about our guest. He's an associate professor of business English and research methodology at the National School of Business and Management, University Hassan I in Morocco. He holds a PhD in EFL and the evaluation of education systems and a master degree in applied linguistics. He also taught English in high schools for more than 12 years and also in the academic environment. He's the co-founder of Africa Voices Dialogue, which is a space for African educators and all education stakeholders to be seen, heard, and loved. Dr. Abdelaziz Zori has also got a European degree in coaching and professional development from La Haute École de Coaching in Paris. His doctoral thesis focused on the social psychology of university EF learners' success, failure, and dropout. He has published research papers in cognitive psychology, learners' motivation, and critical thinking skills. He has participated as a speaker in many conferences in Morocco and abroad, and given presentations in various fields such as independent and autonomous learning, teaching, thinking skills and creativity, and promoting risk-taking in future entrepreneurs. He was also our guest last week. He ran a very interesting and useful workshop for our department together with some other invited colleagues from Morocco. Thank you very much for being here, and the floor is yours to deliver your presentation about building a co-creative ecosystem through communication and diversity in this new world, I would say, because this concept is actually very new. So I'll let you explain it better.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm so happy to be with you again. I'm really thankful, grateful to all of you who have been working very hard to organize this conference in your School of Business and Management, I guess. And I would like again to reiterate my thanks to you, Diana, and to the director of the school or the dean of the school and every member of your school for this invitation. I'm happy to be here with you to share. I'm not going to share research as Professor Raima did, but I'm going to share my own perspective about things, you know, based on some research we did and based on the work we have been doing in Africa Voices Dialogue and the work of some colleagues, other people around the world, around how to approach this new world, let's say, as Diana said, the world we call today a VUCA world or a wicked world or a turbulent world. And as I said, I would like to share my own perspective with you, because the conference, of course, is about language, identity, and communication in contemporary society. So based on this title, I tried to come up with some ideas that I want to share with you. So to start with, first, I would like you to just take a look at this picture and probably share some words or ideas with me. So when you look at a picture such as this one, and the quote that I came up with, so that's something that I came up with from the top of my mind. So the masks that reveal much more than they conceal. So what that triggers in you. If you can jot a few words. Or share them orally.
Yeah, probably in the chat. Will that be okay? Yeah, for people to share, right?
No problem. Yes, sure. So the outline for this presentation is, first we're going to go through understanding the challenges that lie ahead for our world, then deciphering identity and how it relates to this, then celebrating diversity and building through education and co-creation or creating co-creative ecosystems and what that means. Of course, the world today, you know, I know that everyone is using coronavirus to talk about the world today, but it's a reality we're going through. And this world, as I said before, is labeled VUCA world. This is not a new world, by the way. It was used in the past few years, probably 2 decades ago or 3 decades ago, to describe some of the crises that the world has gone through. And the term originated by US military college to describe the new challenges facing leaders, especially in the war in Afghanistan and Iraq. And they've described the world as becoming volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And these are words we may use for the world today. This world is uncertain. We don't have any, you know, criteria upon which we can predict what the world will look like tomorrow. So everybody is saying, so we hope that we will go into, you know, in-person conferences, and we will travel and see each other, and so on and so forth. So we are going through uncertainty. So nobody knows how things will unfold. Of course, it's volatile. Was even, for example, the way this coronavirus has been mutating. It has been mutating in a very speedy and fast way, and how things have changed. Now, all of a sudden, overnight, everybody was asked to confine themselves inside their homes, and life has almost changed for everyone. People lost their jobs. Some people, you know, they lost friends or relatives, and everything has become really different. So there is complexity, and you can also use a framework called the Univen framework. It's spelled CYNFIN, NERFIN. Univen framework refers to a number of situations that we can go through, and this situation that we're going through is described as an unordered situation, or chaotic, using the word chaos. So it is a chaotic situation. So this chaotic situation, of course, imposes a number of things on us, and probably the main thing that it imposes is reflecting over the way we do things, reflecting over the way we perceive things. So the second challenge, hello, this is a young lady asking for cartoons, you know. So you have to wait, okay? You have to wait. Well, you're going to excuse me just 2 seconds, okay?
I wish I did the same. I had done the same yesterday with my barking doggy, my intruding doggy. So I shut the doggy away into a room, and that made things worse. Yeah, it would have been better if I had left him free in the house.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the idea to interrupt. And,
I'm really sorry. You can see how uncertain the world has become. You see?
Yes.
So,
fine.
but the second thing I would like to talk about is the Anthropocene. Some people have been talking about this, especially geologists and scientists have been talking about the new geological era, what is called as the Anthropocene. What the Anthropocene refers to is that we're living in an age that shows that human beings will be impacting the future of the universe more directly, more than any time before. So you can see in the quote that we have of the Indian Shiva, we're living in the Anthropocene age, and now human beings will be the shapers of our future that totally control the overall functions of not just our planet, but our relationship with other planets. And the professor who maybe first referred to this is Paul, who said it's a pity we're still officially living in an age called the Holocene, the Anthropocene. Human dominance of biological, chemical, and geological processes on Earth is already an undeniable reality. So that's why I said probably the first thing we should do is to reflect upon the way we perceive things and we do things, and how we impact our world, and how we impact each other. Now, the third challenge that I would like to talk about is the skills that are needed, because we are educators. So we would like to think about our students and what skills they need for the future. And when you look at different sources, like the one that I have here from the UNESCO, talking about the 21st century skills, you can see that the skills that are required today have to do with what? So you have collective identity in order to promote respect and understanding for diversity beyond, for example, cultural, religious, and ethnic differences. Having a global vision is also another skill that is required today, because we need to deepen knowledge of world problems and of values such as justice, equality, and dignity. And you have critical thinking, which will probably help those learners develop those that global vision and that collective identity, because it simulates creative and systemic analysis to identify different perspectives and angles to problems. Then you have cooperation or collaboration, because we need to work together in order to make the world a better place. And we have to be aware that without us working together, this won't be a reality. And you have social skills that encourage empathy, communication skills, teamwork, and interaction with different people. But as I said, there are other frameworks for the 21st century skills. What is called 21st century skills? This is one of them. I opted for this because it suits what I want to talk about. So building on this collective identity, I wanted to focus on identity and what it means to us in the world today. So what is identity? Of course, there are different definitions of identity, and what is a little bit intriguing is that when you go through the review of the literature, you find out that the concept identity is not an old concept. I mean, people did not think about, even researchers did not focus on identity before World War II. Probably it was mentioned in a way or another, but not in a scientific way. So people started being more interested in researching identity and working on identity, starting from World War II. And as you see here, David Quammen says identity is such a crucial affair that one shouldn't rush into it. And we'll get into this why. So the definitions vary. This definition says that identity is people's concepts of who they are, of what sort of people they are and how they relate to others, from Hagen Abrams, 1988. And Deng, 1995, defines identity as the way individuals and groups define themselves and are defined by others on the basis of race, ethnicity, religion, language, and culture. And Jenkins, 1996, or Jenkins, 1996, defines identity as the ways in which individuals and collectivities are distinguished in their social relations with other individuals and collectivities. And there is also a definition of national identity as the condition in which a mass of people have made the same identification with national symbols, have internalized the symbols of the nation. And of course, here we can talk about different levels of identity. We can talk about individual or self-identity. We can talk about cultural identity. We can talk about national identity. We can talk about different types of identities. But what we have here is that the way it is framed, how identities are framed, they are framed using language, and they are framed using probably how people, how others see us, or how we see ourselves within a community, or how we see ourselves within ourselves. I mean, how do we define ourselves? How do I define myself as a human being? Based on a number of values that I, for example, honor. But I can also identify with a group. I can identify with a community. I can identify with a nation. And I can identify with a social group or a cultural group, and so on and so forth. So the way we frame identity is a very important thing that we need to reflect on. Because why? Because it affects, of course, our attitudes towards others and our attitudes towards ourselves. Our attitudes towards the world are based or are shaped sometimes by the way we see ourselves or how we describe ourselves. Now, identity focused on distinctions. Sometimes identity helps us, or at least, let's say, directs us towards focusing on distinctions. I would like to read what Kwame Anthony Appiah wrote in his book, The Lies That Bind. He said, over the years and around the world, taxi drivers putting their expertise to the test have sized me up. In Sao Paulo, I've been taken for a Brazilian and addressed in Portuguese. In Cape Town, I've been taken for a colored person. In Rome, for an Ethiopian. And one London cabbie refused to believe I didn't speak Hindi. The Parisian who thought I was from Belgium perhaps took me for a Maghribi, and wearing a kaftan, I've faded into a crowd in Tangiers. Tangiers is in Morocco. Puzzled by the combination of my accent and my appearance, once our ride is underway, taxi drivers in the United States and the United Kingdom regularly ask me where I was born. In London, I tell them, but that's not what they really want to know. What they mean to ask is where my family came from originally, or more bluntly, what are you? So this is very, very expressive when it comes to how people perceive each other and how people label each other and how people sometimes want to identify themselves and want to identify others. And the role of languages, the role of probably skin color, the role of race, and so on and so forth in framing that identity is very, very important. And of course, people asking you questions like these, they want to ask you questions because they would like to associate you with something. They would like to describe you somehow. Okay? So they would like it to fit you somewhere. And they would like also to see whether you fit within their, let's say, frame or within a different frame. So the word frame is very important here. Now, there is also us versus them. So this is taken from an article by Mirzaga, Perel, and Rameshwar, who said, at a moment when xenophobia and nationalism are on the rise, the need for clear and constructive conceptions of self is vital. Yet, as various peoples and groups struggle to define themselves, their place in the world, and how they should act, it could increasingly be said that humanity is facing a crisis of identity. Without a vision of shared identity and common purpose, we can all too easily fall into competing ideologies and struggles for power. Seemingly, countless permutations of us and them define group identities ever more narrowly, and over time, this splintering into divergent interest groups weakens the cohesion of society itself. That's one view of how identity, if it's limited within a limited frame, might affect the way we deal with each other and the way we treat each other, and might affect the power dynamics that might run the world, or might run communities or societies or groups. Now, of course, we can focus on distinctions, but we can also appreciate differences. But focusing on distinctions will focus on probably who is superior, who is inferior, who is weak, who is strong, who is powerful, who is less powerful, who is dominating, who is not less dominant, who is not dominating. But appreciating differences is a different story. Let me read this to you. In the dizzying interface of national, ethnic, cultural, linguistic, and religious traditions, the once clear definitions of us and them are being blurred. The tightly knit system of communication and transportation has brought different cultures, nationalities, races, religions, and linguistic communities closer than ever before in a web of interdependence and a common fate. The business as usual ways of doing things are fast losing their relevance, as culture in its pure form has become more a nostalgic concept than a reality. Individuals are challenged to face one another's various differences and search for human similarities so as to be able to move beyond their customary imagination in search of creative solutions to problems. And probably more important than looking for similarities is to appreciate differences. That is to say, value people the way they are, and value who they are will lead us to collaborate and to look for this interdependence. That's what I want to look at with you in the next slides. Now, diversity is key And you can see this quote from Cindy Hook, Deloitte, Australia, who said, "When I look at the economic and business challenges facing us nationally and globally, there is no doubt that diversity is a prerequisite to the success of our business." Why? Because researchers have found that diverse organizations, diverse groups, and diverse communities are more successful. Because, you know, when we talk about different types of thinking, when we talk about diverse people, people coming from diverse backgrounds, they can, of course, enrich the way we think about things, the way we design things, and so on and so forth. Now, we have seen this, of course, when the Black Lives Matter broke out. We've seen that around the world, we have seen people demonstrating, and around the world, we have seen people endorsing this movement, which refers to the fact that people appreciate those differences and care for each other, and that diversity is key today in the world. So this probably did not happen in the world before. I mean, years before, like the first Black movement in the 1960s and 50s and 60s, especially in the 1960s, probably because of technology, of course, we see what is going on in the world, and we know that our fate without S is intertwined. Let's say, like, talk about one fate, but not plural fates. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. You have 2 more minutes.
2 more minutes, are you sure?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I'll run through this. And as I said, the focus today should be on, instead of dependence or independence, should be on interdependence. That is to say, the belief that we are together in all this. So modernity has transformed identity in such a way that we must view ourselves as being not only in a condition of dependence or independence, but also interdependence. So our connections to others now transcend traditional bounds of culture, nation, and community. The unprecedented nature of these connections is radically reshaping human organizations at scale and impact of human exchange. Hearing 2 minutes makes me a little bit nervous and confused. Anyway, so what we should look for now is we should look for the narratives and how they need to be changed. Of course, research can look at this, can look at how narratives shape the way we think about others and the way we treat others and the way we treat each other as well. But we need changing narratives today. So taken from the World Economic Forum, talking about immigration, for example, the rhetoric must change from highlighting distinctions to appreciating differences, from perceiving the other as a burden to viewing them as key contributors to the success and sustainability of host countries' economies, and from forcing assimilation to enabling participation. Now, the role of education is key. It is important. Michel Foucault, the French philosopher, said schools serve the same social functions as prisons and mental institutions to define, classify, control, and regulate people. And of course, if we want to go beyond this frame, what we should do is that we should reflect on the role of schools and critically think about how schools do things and what they do, and try to do it differently. Now, the SDGs, of course, are important, and they are related to what I've been talking about. So this is SDG 4, and SDG 4 is about ensuring all learners acquire knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development, including, among others, through education for sustainable development and sustainable lifestyles, human rights, gender equality, promotion of a culture of peace and non-violence, global citizenship, and appreciation of cultural diversity and of culture's contributions to sustainable development. How we can do this, of course? So inclusiveness begins at home. And what we mean by home, of course, we mean by home, and we mean by home school, and we mean by home the community, and we mean by home the country. Because for me, I believe that a country that is not inclusive cannot talk about inclusive or justice or social justice. That cannot promote social justice. So the practice or policy of providing equal access to opportunities and resources for people who might otherwise be excluded or marginalized, such as those having physical or mental disabilities or belonging to other minority groups, this is what inclusiveness is about. I wanted to look at how, for example, Erik Erikson, who is the psychologist who first talked about identity and identity confusion, describes this and explains this, and how what we should do, for example, including or inclusiveness for adolescents or teenagers at school, and inclusiveness for young adults at universities and higher education, and how that might impact the way they see the world is also very, very important. Because we need to reflect upon the way, for example, why we do have sometimes some adolescents and young people who are either violent or have, for example, racist perspectives. Sometimes these things are due to the way these people are suffering from injustices themselves, or the way things have been imparted to them in education at schools. Now, this is also some of the things we need to reflect on, how identity and culture and language are related. Through the, this is from Bourdieu, the French philosopher. Habitus, cultural and social capital, otherization, and essentialism are some concepts to look at. So I'm running because I don't want Diana to get very angry, because I have to get to something. So of course, policy is equally important. Why policy is equally important? Because research that is being done on identity, there is also some criticism addressed to people who focus only on the impact of identity. And this criticism talks, for example, about economic dominance, or political discourse, or political dominance, or policy, and the role of policy. So the role of policy is important, and the role of policy is related to the SDG 4, or Sustainable Development Goal number 10. Sorry, we can refer to it later, of course. Now, what I want to share with you is ecosystems are essential today. Building ecosystems is very, very essential. So I will mention 3 examples, but if you want, you can do research about them. They are very important to me, and they are very important to the way I see things today, how learning can be built through learning ecosystems. So the first one is, well, I'm not going through the definitions. So creating learning ecosystems and what it means. Yeah, but the first example is from Morocco, and with an association called Tamkeen, and it was founded by this lady here called Karima Kardawi. And the approach is used around the world now. It has been researched in different universities around the world, and has been also adopted around in some places around the world. And what it is about creating communities that co-create learning. For example, I'll just give you an example. In a school where violence is prevalent or dominant, what Karima does with the facilitators of Tamkeen Community Association, they go to the school and they just gather everyone, the students, the directors, the teachers, together around a discussion of what is going on. And everyone gives his perspective. This is a very, very tiny example of what they do. So, and everybody starts working towards one goal, improving the lives of each other. And this has worked a lot in Morocco in Tangiers. This is the second example. The second example is Africa Voices Dialogue. It's the organization that we founded, me and Robin in South Africa, and Andrew from Kenya. We founded it at the beginning of the confinement. It is an NPO, or non-governmental organization, non-profit organization, that focuses on promoting education through educators and learners, who gather around a theme and they discuss it, and everyone listens to each other. As I said, I'm running. So the third example and the last one is Catalyst 2030. And this is a group of people who gathered around the world from different identities, from different backgrounds, from different interests. And as you see here, they say we are agents for change, NGOs, social entrepreneurs, intermediaries, funders, and other social change innovators, collaborating in this urgent moment to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. By joining forces with communities, governments, businesses, and others, we are working toward changing systems at all levels, using systems thinking, of course. Our members have already impacted the lives of hundreds of millions, often with limited resources. And I was very happy to join them this year, and you can join them. You can do research about them if you don't know about Catalyst 2030. And it is very interesting to at least know what they're doing. Now, I will end up with this. Diana, don't worry. The presentation is over. I know that you're worrying about time, and it's legitimate. So of course, Rumi, the Persian Sophie said, yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I'm changing myself. And I think this is where we should start. That's why I talked about identities. And Peter Drucker from management, who is the founder of management, called, the greatest danger in times of turbulence is not turbulence. It is to act with yesterday's logic. And I guess that's what we should reflect upon to manage turbulence, the turbulence that we are going through. Thank you very much. I'm sorry if I've taken more than my time.
Thank you. Well, I'm really sorry that one thing I've definitely learned from this conference is that we have to allocate more time to plenary speakers because, well, 20 minutes, half an hour is too little, and all the presentations have been so interesting. They could have lasted for 1 hour and probably wouldn't have been enough. So yeah, thank you very much. Sorry if I have pressed you with time. It's just because of the parallel sessions, because people who go to parallel sessions are not here and they are probably waiting. So let's have a couple of questions. Yeah, we do have like 3-4 minutes left until the sessions.
I do understand.
Start. Yeah, until the sessions start.
Well, thank you for the presentation. Abdelaziz, I feel that your presentation somehow complements mine. And I read a lot about, recently about this world in turmoil, and especially Ulrich Beck's writings on risk society. But the positive side of this precarious world is that it facilitates the emergence of action, of reflexive action, just as you explained. So with the example of Black Lives Matters, and with the the young climate activism that has developed. So for us, for educators, the question is how do we integrate, help the students integrate into the future, or create the capability for them to build their future on their own. We cannot teach them everything during the 4 or 5 year programs. So we have to equip them with the ability to look around, orient themselves, create their own knowledge, collaborative knowledge, and always in an applicative, knowledge dictated by the necessity of the contingencies. Okay,
yes,
thank you very much.
Yeah, I agree with you. When I was watching your presentation yesterday, that's what I thought. I thought you were talking about similar things. And also Will Baker also gave a presentation where he talked about, brilliantly talked about transcultural theories and how identity, language, and communication are combined to deal with the different.
Yeah, but that transnational world is actually a new creation. So, the reality that we are concerned about today did not exist 4 decades ago or 6 decades ago. Anyway.
Exactly.
All right. So we have to be prepared, always prepared for something new, some new challenge. So in that respect, your presentation was thought-provoking. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Actually, being prepared today, what I've learned is that the difference between being prepared in the past and being prepared today is based on the difference between 2 words: anticipating and predicting. Today we cannot predict anything, so we need to anticipate. And in order to anticipate, we need to be working on building, as you said, building capacity. So capacity building is very, very important today. So empowering everyone and building structures that are conducive to change and conducive to managing the world we live in today. So that's what building capacity is about.
Okay. And that the construction, self-construction is a continuous process. So it's an open, it has an open end, it's an open-end process. Okay,
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe this conference is actually an example of how good diversity is. Yeah, because it gathered together people from so many countries, different cultures, different research interests, and we are all benefiting from the experiences of the others. I personally believe in unity in diversity. I strongly believe this is possible, although very hard to achieve, even in a small group. Yeah, but I do believe that there is unity in diversity, and yeah, diversity is precious and should be appreciated.
Let me just tell you, Diana, that you and your team and your colleagues and the school as a whole and the university, I think that you should be commended and for the efforts you have made to bring all those people together. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation, for your participation. As Aziz is also a moderator in a parallel session, I suggest we should stop here so that he can join his session. We will be meeting at 1:30 again here for 2 more plenary sessions from our guests from Great Britain. Thank you very much, all of you, and enjoy the rest of the day. See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.